Welcome to the Marvy Woods Football Academy podcast. In this season, I'm going to be speaking to academy managers from the Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, and some Scottish clubs. As an academy parent myself, I want to bring some insight into how these academies are being run. I find that it's easy to approach coaches. I hear from players, ex-players, and parents on many platforms about their experiences in academies. But I do not hear from academy managers. This is why I want to do this season. If you think first team managers have playing staff of 18 to 25, whereas academy managers have a playing staff of over 100. That could be from the under 9s to the under 18s. These are people who are so powerful, but they just seem like these men in grey suits or women in grey suits that you just never get to hear from. So what I want to do is I want to bring to you, the listener, what they think, what they want to sign, and what they are looking for in these academies. So if you like this episode, don't just watch and keep it to yourself. Subscribe to see more and spread the word. Welcome to the Marvy Woods Football Academy podcast. On today's episode, I have a special guest that I've been trying to get on here for a while. The St. Mirren Academy manager, Mr. Allan McManus. Thanks for coming on, Allan.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Marvy. Delighted to be here. Thank you.
Brilliant to finally have you on. As I normally do with these things, I normally go back to the beginning and work. Get your memory banks ready. Yeah. Normally go back to the beginning and work our way to where we are today, just so people get to know who you are. So with that said, which I know, but let the people know, have you played for a professional academy or school of excellence in your time? And if so, which one?
I have played for Heart of Midlothian FC Academy, and I was a youth international with Scotland at under 16s and 17s.
Oh, brilliant. So what age did you start at Hearts?
15 years and 10 months, so just shy of my 16th birthday.
So what was happening before then?
School. Yeah, I played grassroots football from the ages of probably 8. Back then, the system was slightly different, where you continued to play grassroots football and you would train or sign what was called as an S form back then with a professional club. So I think I signed my S form with Hearts at probably just before my 15th birthday. Continued playing grassroots football until just shy of my 16th birthday when I went a full-time apprenticeship with Hearts.
How did you get spotted?
Probably like any young player, you're playing with your grassroots team and there'll be scouts at the game watching you. Slightly different then without social media, etc. But it would be word of mouth. They would maybe reach out to your coaches and invite you in for a trial. And obviously back in the day, it was you were either good or you weren't good and you were out the door quite quickly, or they liked what they seen and you continued in that journey. And there was maybe a few clubs then, but Hearts were the one that wanted to take me on as an S form. And I say, obviously done enough that they wanted to bring me in a kind of a full-time apprenticeship contract, or similar to down south where it's a young scholarship agreement.
What position did you play?
Centre back.
Oh, brilliant. So you're a defender then, eh?
Yeah. I think I was good at kicking people and heading the balls. Yeah, ended up at centre back.
Did you ever think you was the best or one of the best players in your team?
Never.
Never.
So reflecting back on that, I think that's a fantastic question. I think when I played grassroots football and youth football, I knew I had to be of a certain level to obviously get the opportunity to get into a club like Hearts. But then when you get in as a young player in that environment, you're surrounded by players who are as good as you and a whole lot better than you in many different ways. And reflecting back my career in general, I definitely think as a younger first team player at Hearts, that certainly had an impact on my own development, not believing in your own ability enough.
So as a 15, 16-year-old you've come into the game late at academy level, you don't feel you're the best player, and then you see, I'm sure, a few best players or a few players that you thought, oh, these guys are good, getting released. What's your thinking then?
Just work hard and hope that you improve and that the people who are in charge of those decisions like what they see. And I think that's a big thing that I've learned throughout my career, that we've all played with a million young players who had far more ability technically, but fell out of the game. So I think my biggest character trait would have been my mindset to continue to work hard, even though I wasn't technically gifted.
What do you think was the difference between those technically gifted players? Obviously, you've just said mindset. What is that mindset that was different between them and you?
I think understanding that things like if you think you're tired, but you can continue to actually work harder. So pushing, for me, it was always pushing beyond what you think you were actually capable of, particularly work ethic or gym work. It would be the non-football related stuff. Just a willingness to compete and never give up. And I think selfishly wanting to win. I know as a young player, it's not all about winning, but try and take that away from any young player, that we all love winning, and I wasn't any different. So I think that just competitive edge, I just never give in.
Did you go out on loan anywhere?
No, it was slightly different. Then you had your youth teams, and then we had a fantastic setup where the first team played on a Saturday and the reserve squad played at the opposition's home park. So all the games took place on a professional stadium. You then had a regional league on a Monday or Tuesday night, again, where you would travel and play lower division clubs. And a lot of those games, were playing against lower division first teams. So from 16, 17 and 18, you were playing against experienced players on a Saturday, or you're playing against experienced players on a Monday or Tuesday night. That's how you learned your craft, and you to learn very quickly, believe me.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. You've got scars and bruises show you're learning, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
Or you
absolutely.
gave out a few, huh?
No comment.
Let's keep it PC, Alan.
Yeah.
I love it. So, how did it feel when you made your debut as a pro? What was that feeling like? Or the call up? Like you saw the call up, or how did that work?
So I think most young players think you work hard and you get to 16, 17, 18 and the manager goes, he's doing well, and we'll give him an opportunity. Very rarely works that way. It's usually because there's an injury crisis or a sickness bug and you get pulled in. So to give you some background, probably 2 years, 18 months prior to my debut, with a previous manager in, and he'd deemed me surplus to requirements at the football club and said I could leave. So I was 19 at the time and had another year's left in my contract, and he just wanted me to go. Didn't see any future at the club for me, but I decided just to stick in, and the management changed and worked hard and found myself training in and around the first team a few times. And then before you know it, you get called into the squad, but didn't find out until the Saturday, and it's just the team gets named and you go, oops, here we go. So yeah, that was it. obviously you're excited about the thought of being involved in the first team environment and being in that squad and travelling, because we were away to Aberdeen. But then, I mean, the manager didn't pull me in before the game to say I was starting or anything. He just named the team and I was starting. So the butterflies kick in very quickly, but it's that fight or flight and away you go. So fantastic memories. But again, you've got to learn very quickly. I think first 5 minutes playing against a certain centre forward at the time who was highly experienced, and you got for the first header, and before you know it, you're lying flat on your back on the ground. So yeah, great memories and a wonderful experience that I'll never forget.
That's brilliant. What was your daily routines? Did you have a routine that you used to do to make yourself a better player at the time?
Reflecting back, yeah, but totally different from the support network that all players have nowadays. Yes, sports science was available, but it was down to yourself, obviously, how much you did to improve. Diet and nutrition was a big part of, it was down to you. And yes, you get weighed and checked from time to time. I think the social aspect of young human beings back then was totally different. I mean, I still have so many friends from back then, but we socialised a lot at the weekend, rightly or wrongly. So a lot of it you were kind of left to your own devices, and ultimately, as long as you performed on a match day, then there was never any real issues, to be honest. So looking back, never worked on my game enough to keep me progressing at that level, which in hindsight I do regret, but that's how you learn in life.
Okay, so you say that. How long did you stay at that level?
At Hearts,
Yeah.
I came in there at 16 and left at 24, so I think I played, or I was involved in 75 to 80 first team games. At that time, like the club were in cup finals, was fortunate enough to play in cup finals or be on the bench, and like incredible experience when I think back at that level. The level was incredible, the players that we're surrounded with. The other challenge people forget was back then you only had 2 and 3 substitutes as well, so very difficult to actually be in that squad or be on the bench as well, and that was a big challenge. But yeah, I left there at 24 and then moved on to my next club.
What could you have done better to be a better player?
Took more care of my diet, nutrition, rest, recovery, probably took more ownership. I think today players have never had so much support. It's there, they're guided to it. So they're surrounded by it 24/7. Then you, as I said, you're left to your own devices. I should have practiced more. And now, obviously, what we've come to understand is at that level, once you reach that level, one of the most important parts of the game is the bit between your ears. So to be able to deal with setbacks and the self-doubt that appears for most players on a daily basis, I think if that had been available and it wasn't seen as such as a taboo subject back then, I would certainly have tapped into that more.
Okay. So as a youngster, who was taking you to these games?
What, the first team games?
No,
or
your
just
academy, like when you first started.
It would be my dad. My dad would my dad is still to this day obsessed with football, more than I ever have been, to be honest. So yeah, my dad would he would take me after work and we would go and train several miles away, or he would do the driving and weekends if there was games. When I went and joined Hearts and it became my job, I travelled myself from Glasgow to Edinburgh every day, there and back. Never stayed through. Left the house at 6:15 in the morning. Didn't go home to 7:30 at night.
Wow.
Great learning experience. Unfortunately, that doesn't really happen now for young players. If they can't get a lift to training, then they don't attend. So,
Yeah.
well, great learning experience and having to grow up really quickly.
Did you and Dad ever have car conversations? Did he critique your did you?
My dad was, no, he was pretty level with me. Like, he there wouldn't be much, but he would tell you if you thought you'd done well, or he would tell you if you had a stinker, basically. We never spent hours, my dad grilling me or whatever. He would just get in the car, and maybe after a period of time, it would be, thought you played well today, son. You go, right, cheers, Dad. So, no, he wasn't. He's probably worse now. So, but no, back then he was fine. He just wanted what was best for me. And one thing he didn't overprotect me. If I came in and I moaned about something, they would basically say, no, well, what are you going to do about it? Get on with it. It's not easy. Life's not easy. So learn to find a way to get what you want. So yeah, for that point of view, it was fine.
Did you have any injuries? And if you did, how did you deal with that?
I was so fortunate in 20 years of playing. I never had one operation.
Brilliant.
I don't ask people nowadays, and they don't understand why. I had a couple of broken noses and a broken wrist and hamstrings and things, but nothing overly serious. Maybe missing 4 and 6 weeks. What I used to do to challenge myself would be, I would focus on doing the things that I hated most in the gym. So I hated rowing. So the first thing I do, I'd go on the rower because I hated it. So I used to torture myself doing things that I didn't like to test my own mindset.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And that would push you? That would make you better anyway.
Yeah, it would just make me appreciate the things that I actually enjoy doing more. So because I always thought if you can do the stuff that you don't like well, then the stuff that you enjoy should come second nature to you.
How did you deal with, so you say, look, 15, you started, and then you was at Hearts, taking yourself from Glasgow to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with, at that age, you got friends who were drinks, drugs, girls, all the relationships or whatever you do, and how did you deal with those distractions, or did you deal with those distractions?
So I think, again, for context, that we have to look at society was different. Absolutely different. I go back to not at 16, but certainly round about 17 and 18, that group that we had as young, aspiring football players, we loved a night out, like at weekends, not during the week, but we went and we worked hard, and then we'd go and we spent all our time together. And as a youth team, we were so successful. I think nearly every young player in our youth team at under 18s when we're at Hearts played in our first team.
Wow.
So I say society was different. We worked hard together. We enjoyed our time off the pitch together. That just doesn't exist nowadays. Probably subsequently it will be more detrimental to any young player trying to find their way into a first team environment. That those behaviours just don't exist now.
Do you think that, like you said about you could have done more, do you think that's part of it that hindered your progress?
No. Maybe that's me being slightly defensive because I wouldn't change that part of the socialising when we grew up. The memories that we've made off the back of that are so important. I think my biggest thing would be dietary side, really honing in on that side and making more of an effort not to eat as much stuff that's not as good for you. But again, we were never really guided. It was more just the scales. You were either in shape or you weren't in shape, and that was it.
If you could run, you was all right.
Yeah, if you could run and perform. Yep.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah. Because I guess you got the Arsene Wenger's and stuff just came later on in the game, and in the UK especially, and the Fergies who just came in and kind of revolutionized that side of things. So that was later on from when we were kids.
I
mean, I'm way younger than you.
Thanks. See, I'm having difficulty trying to remember. But I think what we learned is back then you were a football player.
Mm.
As you said, time changed. Young football players and football players are now athletes. They
Yeah.
are athletes.
Yeah, very true. So how did you branch from that into coaching?
So as my career moved on, I ended up at Ayr United. I think I was 25. And I kind of found myself listening to managers previously, and then particularly there, kind of questioning their tactics, but in my head and going, well, why is he doing that? I would maybe do that another way, etc. And I started getting involved a couple of nights a week with one of Ayr United's, I think it was under 15s. So the manager at that time, Campbell Money, he gave me an opportunity to go and work with some of their young players. So yeah, and looking back, you think you're coaching, but you're not. You're facilitating a training session based on how you've been coached over those previous 10 years. So that's where it started, right through to I retired at 36. Whatever club I was at, there would always be an element of coaching, whether it was 15s, 17s, the reserve team as I got a bit older. So I've always had a handle on it. I loved doing it. I really enjoyed being on the pitch and trying to bring the sessions alive. But again, reflecting back, that you realise you're only really delivering what you know and what you've been shown. So I don't think it was really until I actually came into this job 10 years ago that I started really honing in on what coaching really is.
So you've been at St. Mirren for 10 years then?
I've actually been at the club for 13 or 14 years. So when I retired, I actually ended up in the police for 5 years, but I was still coaching and at St Mirren because I just absolutely loved it. And the job came up. It was a good friend of mine, David Longwell, who had done an unbelievable job here and was moving over to America. So I put my CV in and I just thought, I'll never get offered it. And I got offered the job. And I thought, oops. So, because I was really settled in my role, the police was a fantastic career, but the opportunity to come in at full time and to back into football was just, I couldn't take that risk of not doing it. I'd regretted it. And it's not till you start the job and you go, I'm so far off this, because you're not just coaching. Like, there's so much.
You mean you came in straight away as an academy manager?
Yeah. So no armbands on, no rubber ring, like, straight in.
You know, the funny thing is now knowing or being told what goes on for you guys, that's funny. That's funny. No rubber rings, no armbands, just like shoved in.
So I think then it was more a head of youth role where you still overseen the programme, but it was more football related. You had a bit of support. Now the way the programme up here has moved forward and how our environment has grown substantially, yeah, you kind of go from that head of youth, academy manager, academy director, and you're overseeing a huge operation now. So had to learn quickly and still learning every single day, which is great.
So you're the academy director there as now?
So I think in Scotland, slightly different. So some, obviously the bigger Cat 1 and Cat 2 clubs down in England, they'll have an academy director and an academy manager. Our setup slightly different. So some people will be called academy manager or academy director up here, but you won't have an academy manager below you. You'll then have that support network. My next one down will be like my head of coaching. So yeah.
No, because normally a lot of the academy directors down this side, that they also look after the women's side of things as well. Is that your role too?
At the moment, it's not. That's still an ongoing work in progress within the background at our football club. I dare say at some time that will come together. Whether that sits under my remit, only the powers that be will make that decision. And listen, if it does, then great, and we move forward with it. Brilliant.
So as you mentioned there about categories. For the people who don't know, is there a category system in Scotland? And if so, what category is St. Mirren? And how do you become that category?
So there are 3 categories. You have elite status, you have performance progressive, and you have performance on its own, I think. So there's 3. It's based round about criteria. So a kind of watered down version of EPPP, where you have to show that you have certain amount of staff in place, that you're hitting certain benchmarks. The club have certain facilities in place, both for football and obviously the logistics that go with that as well. And obviously where the football club sit as well. So that's how it kind of works. We sit in the Elite 1 just now. I think there's 11 at the start of the season. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 clubs have kind of fell by the wayside recently up here in relation to the academy programs, which is sad to see. But we're sitting in the elite bracket at the moment, and hopefully we'll be there for a long time to come.
So who's in that bracket with you?
So Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Heart, Hibs, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, and ourselves. And sorry, and Dundee United. Apologies to them.
Oh, brilliant. So the when it comes to fixtures, do the boys from all age groups play those teams weekly, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you have your yearly programme, and it's not regionalised. So like this weekend is our first set of games. All our kids are heading to Aberdeen, which is, it's a big journey up here. I understand down south it's not as lengthy in travel, Paisley to Aberdeen, compared to some of the journeys down south, sorry. So yeah, and they'll play each other a couple of times a season, home and away. There's quite a lot of free weekends in there, particularly for the younger ones, where we can take our teams down and try and play against the best teams down south, which we try and do frequently. Or they'll have small in-house festivals with other clubs coming up from down south, maybe the best grassroots clubs who maybe bring their squads who are a year older. So they're just trying to give them as many experiences as we possibly can.
What does youth development mean to you?
Oh, good question. For us, I would suggest that we're giving the best young players in our environment an opportunity to become the best version of themselves, and that's not just football. That's just in life in general. I think that's well documented now that the social skills and the psychological skills that young human beings can learn and develop in the academy system can set them up for life. Our responsibility is to give these young human beings in a program that allows them to learn and develop and become good human beings and hopefully good young football players.
Development and results. What side of the fence do you sit on?
It's development now. To counteract that, the challenge for us, and particularly for the staff working with the kids, I'll go back to what I said. Like, I would cry if I didn't win. And we'll have young kids like that. The reality is, it's trying to educate them to understand that winning's important in this environment, but what's more important is how they perform individually. Mm-hmm. So, really simple analogy is, you can win 4-0 and play poorly or perform poorly. You can lose 5-0 and play magnificently. So it's just trying to educate the kids on, yes, it's great for their confidence and their well-being when they're winning games, because they get that buzz socially as a group where they can all celebrate after games, but still trying to educate them about the importance of that individual development and performance. And obviously, the higher up the programme that they go, then the performance is absolutely the priority of their individual development.
So at St. Mirren, when it comes to Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 signings, what side of the fence do you sit on with that?
I'm delighted with that question, because I would stand up and say in our country we'll have the most Q4s in the programme, easily. And the reason why that is because we do our homework. So through our benchmarking, we absolutely know, like most clubs nowadays, we know the predicted height, where they are in their maturation, etc. So that doesn't impact it. The challenge obviously becomes we have to identify if you've got talented young players in our programme, and I would say more so specialist positions, goalkeeper and probably centre back. And if you look at outfield player, centre back, if we identify a young player at 11 and 12 is never going to hit 6 foot, for instance, then he's not going to be a centre back. So we have to then identify that and find him another position and try and educate him in whether it's a full back or a midfield. That happens, but no issues with us on it. We look at the whole holistic view in relation to, are they good enough technically, tactically? Do they move well? And like, if you look at, we have a player in our first team just now called Fraser Taylor. I think Fraser's only 5'5" or 5'6". 23, just in and about it now. So
What position?
developer. Fraser can play as a 6, as an 8, as a 10. Pound for pound, quickest player in the first team. Technically, the best player we've ever produced. Mindset, attitude, has everything. It's just taken him till just now. So that's our success story, and that gives us hope that we don't miss out on any late developers or Q4s, particularly moving forward, as long as we follow our processes.
That's really interesting you said that. So obviously, to me, that means data is important to you. But when you say predicted height, I know with my son being at Colchester United in the English League, is that predicted height accurate? How accurate is it?
It's predicted within 1 inch. Now, again, there'll be outliers there. So that we'll use the kind of latest algorithm through our sports science team. It's the one it's the highest level in relation to how you benchmark this. So, I mean, we've been using this. The big clubs have been doing it for years and years. We're maybe 3-4 years in.
And what's the accuracy of that? Like percentage wise, like 90, 80, what's the accuracy?
I think it's pretty high. I think it's like, according it's like 90 odd percent. It can be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, because my son's predicted to be 6'3", right? And I'm like, it's really interesting to me how that works, how they come up with that is just fascinating to me. No, seriously.
It's crazy, because what tends to happen now is parents understand now that we're asking for their heights, because
Yeah,
that's
their
a big
heights
part.
and their
Yeah.
grandparents and everything.
But then they've started maybe telling a few fibs in relation to their height. But seemingly the algorithm allows for that. I've no idea. So I'm as baffled as you are. So, yeah. But again, at the end of the day, so it's more so particularly centre backs and goalkeepers. So straight away, if your centre back predicted height flags up at 6'2", so we kind of then know there's a good high percentage he's going to be above 6 foot, and then you go, right, good, right, we're settled on that kind of outcome. So
No, it's interesting. Why I'm saying that is because I know it's like at Colchester they do measurements every, I don't know, 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever. And I'm just like, what is this supercomputer that these people have?
yeah,
That is making them go, right, yep, he's on course, he's going, like, what is that? That is just fascinating to me.
which it's fantastic for all the clubs, because we have that, and then with your your physical benchmarks that allows you to gauge where each young footballer is in relation to how they're going to move and their power outputs, and then how we can try and support them to be better at that through the programme, through their individual plans, etc. Then it just gives us a better picture of the prediction going forward.
So no, I've never heard someone answer that question in that way. So I guess with that kind of data behind you, then really whether it's quarter 1 or quarter 10, it doesn't really matter.
Because you can be an early developer. So hypothetically, if we've got an under 13 player who's a centre back and he's 5'11" just now, so everybody will go, yeah, but he's an early developer, and you go, yeah, but we've already tested what's happening and what his predicted outcomes are going to be at 16 or 17. He might end up 6'2", 6'3". So it's not that he stopped growing. We might take that into consideration if he shows that he's not got much more to grow. But just because he's a big boy just now doesn't mean he's going to stop growing. He might be a big boy in 4 or 5 years' time.
At what age does that start from, by the way?
I think we are under 12. Under 12 or under 13, I think we are.
So they can start predicting it from that age?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so you combine that with their physical capabilities and how they move, and then obviously the big part is they still have to be able to play football as well. Yeah. So it just gives a more informed choice of where we think each young player is as they move through the programme. And if we identify later developers who we know are going to get there or thereabouts, then we have to give them more time in the programme. We have to do that.
So you do use data at St. Mirren to help your decisions. And how valuable do you find data in football?
I think we'll be way behind the big clubs in relation to access to data. I mean, the level of data in the Premiership now is outrageous. There's nothing that you can't collate together. It's what you do with that data. So data for me will always back up what you see with your naked eye because of experience. I've been in the game for a long time. It does help move biases, etc., towards players as well, because we all have a confirmational bias at times towards certain players. Yes, it's there to help us, particularly with the younger players. We would love to get to the stage where we will be collating a lot more data in relation to our football outputs as well. It's something we're working on, but we're still way behind most, particularly at the top end of academy football in relation to that.
Do you get much support from your owner or your chairman in terms of the academy?
Our club is fan owned.
Oh, wow.
Which is a great setup. And it's also part owned by one of the biggest children's charities in Great Britain called the Kibble. So, in short, yes, we are well supported at the football club. Anything else, we're all aware. When the first team do well, everything's rosy off the back of that. Absolutely. And let's not be kidding that, because that's where the vast majority of income will come in. That the stadium will be packed if the first team are doing well. So that will always be the priority. But we sit very high up in relation to the club strategy and what they're trying to achieve at this football club, because they see that the model of bringing young players through and playing in our first team and selling them on for a substantial profit has to be part of the business model.
Right. How important, as we discussed earlier, is sleep and nutrition to football?
Massive now. I think the data, the research that's there, particularly for young people when they're growing within the academy system. Yeah. And now it's down to us as a programme to provide all that information. What we can't do is make them follow it. What we can absolutely do is educate the players, and particularly when they're younger, their support network, particularly their parents, on the importance of this and how they can play a huge role in in that. But ultimately, it's down to the discipline of the young players now to really buy into that.
But why is sleep important?
I think me and you could answer that as well. I think because without proper sleep, you don't function properly. I think it's really simple as that. I think obviously we know that it aids recovery and everything else that goes with it, particularly the amount of work that these young aspiring footballers are putting in on an almost daily basis. So recovery is huge for them, both mentally and physically.
Do you do academy tours at St Mirren?
Do we bring teams to us or do we go
on tours? Any tours? Yeah. Do you go on tours?
Over the last couple of years, we've took some of the teams to different tournaments, probably the Milk Cup in Ireland. The kids were down at one in Manchester most recently as well. So we try to understand that this club, we don't have the biggest budget in the world. I have to box clever with our finances as well. So we do try and give them those experiences when we can. Probably we do more day trips down to Man United or Newcastle and Sunderland where we can take 5 or 6 of the teams down and we go and play loads of cross-border football, which is the kids absolutely love as well.
And what's the benefits of that?
I think from the early stages, huge benefits, like simple things of travelling without mum and dad.
Don't be hesitant, say it.
Yeah, travelling without mum and dad, being allowed to be
themselves,
who they want to be with their teammates, and being children on the bus, getting to have fun and carry on. And I think that's part of it as well. But they also get to see as they get older what the top level looks like. We've been down at Man United a couple of times and go down there and compete with their teams, but they get to see what the best is, what the best environments are meant to look like. And sometimes that's enough to push some of our best younger players at 14 to 15 to really go, this is what I want to do. I want a bit of this. So there's numerous benefits, and it just allows you to gauge where your young players are in relation to some of the best clubs in the world.
Yeah. So a player comes into the club from grassroots. How quickly can you see if a trialist is ready for St Mirren?
Oh, that's a good question, because I think it's changed so much over the years. I think now we're having to give them longer, purely because some kids come in and they're so nervous now that mum and dad have actually called off, said, can't bring him in. He's nearly been sick. He's so nervous. So we have to give them an opportunity to come in and feel part of the environment, and then you start looking at, do they interact with other players? How are they with coaches? Do they make eye contact? Because it go back to what I said, they've came from being the big fish in the pond. Now they're just a fish in a pond full of fish the same size. They're almost back down to the bottom of the pecking order. The ones that start catching your eye straight away, who engage and are sociable and are not frightened to make mistakes, you see that. And I think that's for us. They're the behaviours you look for, because I always say to my staff, it's our job to make them better technically. That we can have a big influence in that, but it's the social skills and how they move as well about the pitch now. Because I go back to, whether we agree or not, the modern day game is athletic. You have to be able to move. So they're the things that we look for really quickly, because I believe that our staff can then make them better technically and tactically, and obviously physically as well.
So in your time, what have you seen is the difference between a grassroots and academy level player?
Basic technique, and I mean basic technique of controlling and passing the ball. Being able to take the ball out the air unopposed. Being able to pass the ball left and right footed. And then scanning and awareness. So the basic technical competencies of being able to play football.
How many days a week do you train and play?
So the young players that are not full-time will train. So our pre-academy kids will train 2 nights a week. The challenge with them is because they're not actually signed, because we're not allowed to sign them until a certain age, they'll be in training with other clubs as well.
What age?
Sorry, on you go.
What age do you sign them?
Can start doing it at 10, depending when they're...
That's the
Scottish.
Scottish. That's the Scottish. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I do think that will shift. I do think it will become a lot later, more like the continent. But that's where it is just now. But the ones that are in our main academy train 3 nights and then their match day. We have day release programme where they can give up 1 night but come in and train all day at the training ground. So they'll come in and it's like instead of school, and they'll train for maybe morning and afternoon and do analysis and additional gym work, etc. And they spend the day in there. So that's how our programme will work.
So how does Allan and his staff deal with lateness at St. Mirren? Don't do that.
No,
I'm hit a nerve.
This is a good question, because I'll spend time every month or so with an individual just trying to learn about dealing with frustrations and managing up and down, and if you want to call it therapy, I don't know. And that was one of my questions about people who are late, because to me, I get quite annoyed with it, because I'm going, that person values their time far more than they value my time. But the reality is, I've learned that there's a million things for lateness. So I've changed to get to your question is, I'll always ask now, are you okay? Is there any reason why you were late? Or was there, yeah. But somebody who's continuously late is not acceptable. And that's not just football, that's life. Like if you've got a job, you need to be in for a certain time, but you need to be ready to start at that time. So understand, like, young people can be late, and obviously the younger ones rely on parents to get them there. So it's not really their fault as well, as long as there's communication. But you start getting into the full-time environment. I've seen players just been put out the squads. No, you're not playing. That's it. That's the way I was brought up. It'd be the same in the workplace. If you turn up late and you're continuous, like, there's going to be consequences to that. And the football environment's not any different. So cut a long story short, unless there's a sound reason for being late, not acceptable.
Okay. A player is playing centre back and your staff say they feel he should be centre mid, or someone's centre mid and they feel he should be right wing or left wing, and the parents are not happy about it, the players are not happy about it. This is what I've always done. How do you deal with the confrontation of a player not being happy, moving from where they think, I'm a cam,
Yeah.
don't talk to me?
Yeah, it's great because we've had that so many times. And the key is the relationships that you have with the parents. The players you have relationships with, but if you've got the parents on board, then anything is so much easier.
And if you don't?
Well, it's then getting that young player to buy into it and give it an opportunity in the pitch, and absolutely saying trust us, because we've got a few of them. We've had a young player that's came in from grassroots as a winger. He's now one of the best centre backs in the country, and he's still a young player. So that's been easier because he's seen the progress. He's being acknowledged for how good he's been by obviously the international setups and things as well. So that's the easy part. The other part is, if you have to try, and if it doesn't work, then you end up, occasionally we get it wrong as well. They have to work their way back to maybe the position that they started. But it's influencing, it's communication. The big thing's trust. Getting the trust of the player and the trust of the parents.
What is that thing, Allan? Like, so he's coming as a winger. How do you see Bukayo Saka becoming Gabriel at the back? Like, how do you see that?
But probably selfishly, because he was almost 6 foot.
Right.
So he's a big lad, and we're going, I think, and he would, He had physical qualities in relation to attacking the ball and things. So we've tried that, and it was a bit raw, and now he's up to speed. But from that, obviously changing him back to centre back, he's found himself at full back. Some of our teams will play a back three, so he's found himself as a wing back now where you're going. So now he knows how to play further forward, but he's learned the defensive skills as well. So now this kid can go and play in 2 or 3 positions, and he's a top player for us. So it's worked really well. It's just, again, it's going back to the trust, showing them the bits that they're doing well and getting that buy-in from them and their parents.
What is being coachable?
Listening, taking on information, asking questions, and not being frightened to make mistakes.
Do you value someone who's open to being coachable?
Absolutely. I think we in society nowadays have to make sure that our coaching abilities cater for many different types of young players. Some players are absolutely motivated to listen and learn. Some young players find it difficult to communicate. Some young players find it difficult to hold their attention span for any length of time. So we have to be aware of all those things and find the best way for these young human beings to engage with us as best we can.
So as you said about the attention span there, do you have players at St. Mirren who have ADHD, and
Yeah.
how do you deal with a player like that?
I think it's recognising, do they show certain different behaviours? It might be 1 or 2 of these kids, or they maybe lash out, or they get frustrated in the pitch or whatever, and it's recognised. The coaches need to recognise that it's not poor behaviour. It's part of their behaviours, and it's about helping them to understand where the line is and
Right.
not crossing it. So that can be a challenge, but it's also spending more time with them individually, because in a group, as we know, like, the information you pass on might only reach 50% of the squad that's in front of you, but actually sitting down and engaging with these young human beings on a one-to-one basis, then that's gold dust for us, and it's certainly gold dust for maybe any players that are struggling with condition like ADHD.
Do you need resilience to be a footballer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You need resilience in any part of this industry, because I think the biggest challenge is trying to teach these young human beings that they have to perform, that they are being judged all the time in how they perform in training, how they perform in games, how they perform in the gym. The added pressures are obviously how they perform at school, etc. as well. It's a challenge, and it's huge. And it's the biggest thing is it's easy for them when everything's going well and they're full of confidence. It's the setbacks, because there are always setbacks. Make mistakes. They're human. Make mistakes every day. We all do. They might get constructive feedback for the coaches, their parents. They might have an injury, so they have to be able to be level-headed enough to not get too high and not get too low. And the biggest thing for us is we've got a psychosocial programme in place and one-to-one support for all our young players, which hopefully helps develop these key skills, resilience and dealing with setbacks.
You said you do a day release program, right?
Yes.
Do you have a head of education? Do you liaise with schools and look at school reports?
So a bit more relaxed than that. So the most important, we have to contact the school and get their permission to do that. So once we get the buy-in and the parents get the buy-in, then we have that agreement, and it's more verbal, but we make the school aware and we make the parents aware, and also more importantly, the players, that if there's any issue with their education at any stage, the parents can take their son back out and focus more on education. We'll make it flexible, particularly around exam time, where it might be that they miss day release for 4 to 6 weeks because they're on exam leave and they need to study more. So it's about being as flexible, but also making the young player understand the importance that if their education does drop at any stage, then the priority becomes the education and not the football.
Why is that? If they're talented?
Because we still firmly believe that you have to have an education. You have to have a plan B, because we know the stats and figures surrounding becoming a professional footballer are so low. So it doesn't matter how talented they are, or even if they go on and are play at the best level in the world, at some stage they're still going to need a level of education to go and do something else, whether it's at the top level building their own business, or for a young player falling out the programme at 14 and 15, are they ready to go to college or university, and if they got the core skills behind them to allow them to do that.
What if they're homeschooled?
Again, we have to make sure that the support's there. If mum and dad are happy for them to miss homeschooling for a day, then absolutely fine. We've got no issues with that. We have to adapt to every single young player and give them the opportunity. Some parents won't take their kids out of school, and we have to respect that as well and make them understand that their kid's not penalised for that. So, because we might think football's the most important thing, but the reality is their education still sits a fraction above their dedication to football.
Good person or good talent?
Good person.
Why?
Might be my own values. I think if you're a good person, you're more open to helping other people, because it's an individual sport, but that individual will only ever be as good as the people that surround you. And if you're a good person, there's going to be a lot more people wanting to help you.
How do you deal with release meetings? Release and retain periods?
So, going back to our programme, you do have criteria that you need to meet. So, as a bare minimum, we'll have 4 meetings with the players over the course of the year. We'll do a bare minimum 2 with just a player on his own and 2 with parents in as well. And there'll be meetings in and around that are more ad hoc. And again, it's individual to that player, because it's down to the coaches to identify that there might have to be more interventions in between. Our development plans are unique, that they're kind of live. So if there is any issues, parents can go in and document, and it flags up to us and vice versa. So it's a kind of live document that's ongoing. My biggest thing is that if a player's going to be released, the feedback over the course of that year should reflect that. It should reflect it in their development plans and the communication with the player and the parents, so that it's not a shock. That's the biggest advice I would give them. So, final part of the year, if they're having their final sit down with mum and dad and that player, the player should be pretty aware that it's coming, because there should have been maybe another intervention a month or 2 before that, and in between another meeting that's kind of marked down with the player on his own as well. So it shouldn't be a shock to them. And to be fair, probably most clubs will still get that wrong, and that's down to me making sure that the staff are providing the right information to the parents and the kids throughout the course of the year, so it gives them the best opportunity for that not to happen.
Have you heard of Hitman Labs?
Yes.
So do you use it?
No.
Because like at Colchester, my boy uses Kitman Labs, right? And don't worry, I'm not part of their marketing team. I'm not part of their marketing team, but basically on Kitman Labs, there's a section where it's like a game by game review, and so after every game, we get the review of what he's done good and what he needs to do. So in terms of what you're saying, in regards to like when you come to those reviews, the players should know. So once the coaches are saying, right, you need to run down the channels a bit more, after that game, you read it, you're like, okay, so next game, if you're not implementing that, then I understand at the end of the period of time, you'll just say, well, you didn't cover what we told you to do. So it's a very interesting app.
I think I've had a look at it before. I think what we've tried to do is create a programme that from our foundation phase, by the time they come out and go full time in the transition phase, that they've learned what they need to know. Because, as you say, I think that it's great that you feed back every week, but one week you might need to run the channel more. The next week you need to be better at your 1v1 defending. If that changes every week, suddenly a young player can be overwhelmed and going, how do I get better at all these things? So we try and give them 2 or 3 key things that they have to work on and observe it. But we also, the big part of that, what you said there about the club feeding back, all our games are all analysed, they've got access to training. Big thing is go, well, you feed back to us. Why should it always be the club feedback to the player? No, take some more ownership, particularly as they got older. Right, you watch a game back, you come and speak to us. What did you see? What questions do you have? What do you think you need to get better at as well? And it just creates that deeper learning, that two-way learning. It's a good education piece for the young players as well.
Yeah. In game, coaching on the ball or coaching off the ball?
Me and my staff, everybody will be different. I think everybody's got their own bias. Mine's, if I was back on it, absolutely off the ball. I use a terminology. Out of possession is absolute structure. In possession is guidelines and creativity. Because like most academies, you'll have a playing style, a game model, whatever you want to call it, and we're not any different. So you have your principles. But I think in possession, you're looking for players to go and be as creative as you want within the boundaries of the principles, but out of possession is absolute structure. That's how we press. That's how we get the ball back. And there's no negotiation for that. And our staff will be split on that. The good thing is, if you've got 2 staff members at a game or your head of coaching, then you're hoping that relationship picks up both.
Do parents sometimes shape your decisions on whether you sign or release a player?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I have to weigh up. My job is to support and protect my staff. That's my priority as well as the young players. And I have to weigh up, is the risk of parents who behave a certain way more important than, i.e. keeping the son in the building and probably exposing my staff to abuse or allegations or just how they interact in general? It's a huge challenge. But absolutely, if the parents are that bad, I don't care how good the kid is. And they're constantly not listening, they're not learning, they're causing my staff real issues, they won't be in the programme.
What characteristics do you look for in a scholar at St. Mirren?
Ooh. So most of them, because once they get to that age, you're hoping that their football qualities or their basic techniques are at a decent level. So again, mindset, resilience, physical output, and taking ownership of their own career. So a lot of it's nothing to do with football. It's more behaviours. It's more behaviours. I think that's a challenge. You start to see these behaviours at probably 14, 15, and you start going, yeah, he's got a chance. He's got the chance.
And what are those behaviours?
How a player carries himself, how they train. Nothing's a chore for them. They get really annoyed when they don't play or they don't play 90 minutes. They just love football and they love getting better and they love the hard work that goes with it. And they drive their own standards. They don't, very rarely do they need provoked, they need pushed, they need told off to work hard. They do everything. And the biggest thing is, as we know in success, is they have a consistency of behaviours day in, day out. So when you see a scholarship, most scholars will come in first 3 months and absolutely flying. Then the weather changes and it's dark, and that's where you start to notice when the discipline goes. The top
Right.
players keep going.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, what discipline is that then?
Oh, it's self-discipline. They set their own standards. They know where they want to get to. They will listen to what they need to do, and they will do whatever it takes day in, day out to improve on a daily basis until they get where they want to get to.
So, being one or previously one, what is your idea of a model pro?
Again, the model pros are the ones that you very rarely have to give any constructive feedback to. That, like, they're open to learning. They're open every day. They'll be in time. They will be in the gym doing what they've been asked to do, but they'll be back in the gym in the afternoon doing more, train as hard as they can. That doesn't mean that they always train well every day, but they'll be the best version of themselves every single day. They're inquisitive, they'll ask questions, they'll want feedback, they'll do their own analysis, and they'll come and ask how they can get better every single day. And do you know what? They're usually all good human beings as well, and they all have a good support network round about.
A player goes on loan at St. Do you do loans at St. Mirren?
Yes.
So a player goes on loan, one of your brightest ones that you got really good hopes for, they go away and it doesn't work. What are the factors that over your time being there, you've seen like a loan has not worked the way you planned it to?
So we have about 8 or 9 of our young players out. There's a new agreement that started up here recently called the Cooperation Agreement, which a club like St Mirren can have an agreement with a lower league club, like all the way down into almost non-league, where you're allowed 3 players to go at the one time to that club. Doesn't cost that club any money, and it's about you can bring them back and forth at any time, compared to the traditional loan where they usually go out for a minimum 6 months. So previously, the loans, things that have not went right, maybe the managers at first team level and how they interact with these young players. These young kids are used to getting high level of detail and been looked after every day, and they go to a certain club and the manager's just like, boot it the way you face. Don't take a touch in there. And these kids are terrified.
Yeah.
They maybe, what we spoke about, they maybe don't trust their own ability at that level because they've went through one of the big fish. They're back in an environment where they're surrounded by grown men who are competing for bonuses, etc. as well. And there's more pressure on them to win. So for us, it's about doing the research now and the background of the club, how they play, what's their coaching staff like, speaking to the player. I also think there's a balance about you don't bring them back too early as well. We've got kids that, maybe after a month, I'm not playing, this isn't good enough. You go, no, you're staying for a while. You're going to learn that it doesn't all go your own way. You're going to have to fight harder. You're going to have to show that new manager what you're all about. And after a period of time, if it still not works out, then we can look to bring them back. We're of the mindset there isn't a bad loan experience. All experiences for them are good. And I think the research tells you now, all our kids, we're aspiring to a minimum of 900 minutes at first team football at any level in our environment for the young players. So we've got boys out now playing at 16, men's football, 90 minutes a week. So straight away, they've got 400 minutes in the first 4 weeks of the season, pretty much, or 5 weeks of the season. They're way ahead of schedule because the research will tell you the earlier that they're exposed to a first team environment at any level, the better chance they have of becoming a professional footballer.
So you've seen some good players at St. Mirren, I take it, and some you thought maybe that boy is going to make it, and for some reason there's a lack of discipline somewhere along the line that has just taken them off course. What are the usual lack of disciplines or distractions that you've seen that has prevented really good potential players making the grade?
Again, go back to what we said about the top ones, the consistency of behaviours, coming in and not being their best version every day, not taking on the information in relation to how they can improve, whether it's diet, nutrition, doing additional work, constantly needing prodded, because as we know, academy football can be a wee bit sterile, particularly in the younger age groups where it's all about technique and quality and one-to-one and step-overs, etc. You come into the first team environment and we know the differences. So I think the ones who have been technically excellent have then maybe struggle with the physical and the mental side of things, and they just can't cope. And they want to give up really quickly.
Right.
So again, the overarching thing would be the consistency of behaviours. Also, taking into consideration what we spoke about when particularly I was younger, there's off-pitch distractions, there's nightlife, there's relationships start to build with other males or females, whatever, that happens as well. And that kind of a big distraction where football becomes, or no longer becomes, the number one priority in life.
Right. So you speak to the first team manager a lot about what's going on in the academy.
Yes, absolutely. Very unique because where our training ground is, like, we interact every day. I'm fortunate I got on really well with a manager. We're a similar age. The standards and the demands that he sets at this football club are very high, and if you're not reaching them, then you're going to know about it. He's also one of, I can't believe he's still at St Mirren, if I'm being honest. He is one of the best managers and coaches I've ever seen work. I mean, I've been in the game a long time. We have a good relationship. I'm in the morning meetings with the first team staff most days. I go every first team game. I travel with them. I feed back to them in the stand as well, because it allows me also to keep an eye on the younger ones that are in and about that environment. So there's nothing that the manager misses. But between the two of us, then he absolutely knows what's going on. And on the other hand, I absolutely know what he expects as well, and that has to feed down the other way.
So going back to what you said at the beginning when you first came into this job, what have you discovered about this job that you did not see coming when you got into the seat?
Okay, there'll be a lot. Do you know what? Particularly how society's changed, that there's a lot of young aspiring players in the academy that it's not for them. They don't want to be footballers. Like, when I grew up, that's all MD wanted to do. You wanted to play football. Like, the people that you were in the changing room with when you were a kid at 16 or full time, like, that's all you wanted to do. You just wanted to play football. But nowadays you're going, he's showing the behaviours that, no, this isn't for him. And maybe there's that peer pressure for mum and dad. No, we want Allan in there because there's a social status thing about it. And I think that's a big thing that I've learned. It's not for everybody. And I took that from Jack Ross, who's now at Newcastle. I'm in a managerial role there, a strategic role, that it's not for everybody. And that's really opened my eyes up, that there's loads of kids in the programmes that they're there because mum and dad want them there, not because they want to be there, which is sad, really.
You can see the difference?
Absolutely see the difference.
What, in their attitudes?
Attitude, disengaged, like, weight the world on their shoulders, because you know what it's like doing something that you don't enjoy doing, but getting forced to do it. It's sad to see. It really is sad to see.
So do you keep those players in the programme?
No, we try and...
Because they must have some form of talent to be there.
Yeah, they do have some form, but I mean, there's been some... I could tell you a story about a player that played in our first team on the Saturday and quit on the Monday. But I'm
No
not...
way.
that happens. That's the level we're talking about. Like, they can't cope with the pressures and the demands of being in that type of environment.
You
But
mean
even
after
that,
coming all the way through the system, got to the very point and said, nah, this ain't for me?
it's not for me anymore. Couldn't deal with the pressure. Yeah, and by the way, he was a proper good player. But even kids maybe at school age, maybe like, because they're getting closer to that decision where we may bring them in, so like mum and dad just seen it. Like, we've had, again, go back to issues with parents, like just pushy parents forcing their kids to be there because it's a status thing. It's not to say that the kid's not a bad player. It's just that you can tell they don't want to be there. Their body language, their enthusiasm to engage, to get better. You see it. You absolutely see it. So going back to what you said was, it's about engaging with the kid and trying to get a feel for where they're at. Maybe through the sports psychologist, spending a bit of time one-to-one, and maybe prodding mum and dad as well to try and, on a human level, going, listen, we can see he's struggling. It might be that you take him out for a bit and see how he reacts then, and try and allow them to figure out as well. That's been a real challenge.
That's what you've discovered in the job.
Yeah.
What's your day-to-day? I know it's different. What's your day-to-day? So, fly on the wall. What is Allan's day-to-day typical day look like?
I think the good thing in a role like mine is that you can be really flexible as long as the work gets done. I've actually wrote that down, but so if we go in, I'll generally go in for 8 in the morning. I don't live too far away. Get a laptop on, quickly check emails. Then I'll be in for a coffee with some of the staff, and then 9 o'clock, manager will have his meeting. And then depending how much work I've got to do, because I find the job goes through cycles where you can be absolutely snowed under and there's stuff that you need to get done urgently or feedback to senior management, or it can be pretty relaxed because you've got all your work done. So for me, I can just now be on, I'll then go on the pitch with under 19s and support our under 19s manager. Just been on there, throw ideas at them, and then probably as the session goes on, I'll take part in some unit work or individual work. That's great, and it keeps my fixer coaching as well. Then after lunch, it can be catching up with the players, the ones that have been out on loan. It could be catching up with the staff. It could be reviews. You're on the phone. It's so ad hoc in a good way, because as you know, football is such a sociable industry. Sometimes you might just get caught up with other staff members for an hour, just chatting. Yeah. And before you know it, it's 7 o'clock at night and we're all ready to go again. For me, it's not a job. It's a lifestyle. I'm very fortunate to get to be involved in an industry that I've been in since I left school. As much it can be stressful at times, I wouldn't change it for the world.
You enjoy it then?
Love it. Even the bad bits.
Is there a like certain targets that you're asked to meet in terms of players coming through?
I think the good bit for that is that I don't care where you can't judge that. You can't. What I've learned over the years, we have to make sure if there's benchmarks or demands that the manager needs to see in relation to where players need to be, we have to make sure we're doing our best to make sure that whether it's physical benchmarks or footballing benchmarks or style of play within our under 19s, or my job to make sure that the staff absolutely have that in place. But we can't make a manager, any manager, pick a young player to go and play. And with the greatest respect, the board can't do that as well. It's down to the manager whether he thinks that player's capable of doing that or not. And that's a challenge. So I'm quite relaxed with that. I think our programme does really well. The challenge for any young player, and it's the same in the Prem, how do you prepare a 16 and 17-year-old to be physically, mentally, technically and tactically ready to go into a club that plays in the top 6 at the top level in the country? It's so difficult. It is so difficult. And that's why so few do it.
You've been there a while. How does it feel when you see players come through the actual academy up into the first team. What's that feeling like?
Absolutely brilliant. That's why we do the job that we do. Sometimes you might get one or two through. Managers, really simple. He's gone, if you get one in and around my first team every year, you've won a watch. That's a challenge. And we know that the board, etc., they want as many players in and you get the big sell-ons, whatever. Really, it doesn't work that way. There's so many ways to have success within academy. So there's a return on investment. Okay, so whatever the club invest into our academy do the club see that as a viable investment from the football club? Are they getting a return on that? So it's whether there's player sales, sell-on clauses that players that have moved on from our football club. Things like, you work out, so you could have a young player playing in the first team on, say, 500 quid a week, and that, say the average salary's 20 grand, which it's not, but I'm giving you. So you then look at the difference on the two players, and if the manager wanted to replace that young player, what would that cost? And you add all these things up. So the most important thing is, part of our club strategy, it's a community-based programme. Everybody wants to see young players in and around our first team, and that absolutely happens. It is hard as well, as I said, but the biggest thing is, for the business model, do the club see that as a key part of their strategy? And they absolutely do.
So Little Jack starts at under 10s. It's under 10s you guys start, right?
Yeah.
Little Jack starts at under 10s and says 11 or 12, he doesn't like it. And he wants to leave. And then a year later, you hear Little Jack he's back interested again.
Yeah.
And he wants to go to Rangers this time. Is there some form of fee attached to Little Jack?
So, no, this is where our country's crazy. So, like, obviously down the road where you guys are, at a certain age, a club can come in and make an offer for another player, and there's X amount of compensation due, and it's paid. And rightly or wrongly, you use a player. Somebody in their wisdom up here thought that it'd be good that there's a period each season where a club, so usually the bigger clubs, can come in, take one of your best players. You can't stop them going if they want to go, and you only get compensation once they go full time at that club or another club.
So you can develop a player.
Yeah. And you don't get anything unless they go full time at that club that came in to take them at another club. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous. So I don't even want to get down that route. So what we would generally do, if a player wants to leave for whatever reason, and in a year's time, we would kind of raise that with our national governing body, and so in the background going, right, that's fine. We've not, because ultimately you're never going to stop a kid playing football.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have to go then. If he went to Rangers a year later and he stays at that club till he's 16, then we're due an element of training compensation once he reaches that level.
It's very interesting, eh?
Yeah. Makes no sense.
So, final 4 questions. Take you out the hot seat, Allan. What qualities do you need to be a good academy player, academy coach, academy scout, and academy manager?
A good academy player, I think we've probably covered it in our interview. I think you're going to have a high level of technical ability. You're going to have a good level of physical ability. And what I mean by that, not just being very strong, but being able to move. You're going to have good mental capabilities, i.e. we've spoke about. You're going to have to be able to deal with a lot of setbacks, whether it's through loss of form, injury, not playing as much as you should have. And you absolutely are going to have a love for playing football.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So that would be a player.
A coach?
A coach, you're going to have to be very good at building relationships, both with players and parents. You're going to have to be able to provide a lot of detail to young human beings in a manner that they can take on information. Your attention to detail when you're coaching is to be clear and concise, and you have to be enthusiastic in what you do.
And the scout?
Again, a scout's slightly different because the guys will probably work from what we are probably looking for from for a player. So again, the scouts in our environment, again, for a young player, enthusiasm, commitment, willingness to work hard, to win, how they move, and then try and do a bit of research on what's their social circle like, i.e. their support from parents. And then once that's happened, they would come into the environment and then we would do the testing and things to give us a clearer picture. So again, not overly much on specific skills, football related. A lot of it's life skills, how they carry themselves, how they work hard, the reaction to making mistakes, etc. Enthusiasm to play football.
And academy manager.
Oh God. For me, like academy manager, academy director, you're only as good as the people that surround you. So I think one of my biggest strengths is I'm surrounded with very good people in different disciplines. So you do not need to be an expert on one thing. You may be, I know it, but I do understand a good knowledge of the game, how to coach at different ages and stages, but I also understand strength and conditioning. You know, we spoke about growth and maturation, about diet and nutrition, the medical side, the psych side. You have to have a handle on all of that if you want to be, I would say, successful or good in your field. So when you're having conversations, you actually understand everything that's going on. And I think that would be the same at the next level up at technical director and sporting director. I think you need to understand what's in place and why it's in place and have a basic knowledge of all of that, which is very difficult to have.
Is there anything that I haven't covered today that you would like to mention?
That's a good question. How much time have we got? I think maybe for any young player is to recognise that the biggest thing when you're playing football or wanting to play football is you're never really in charge of whether you'll play or not. It's being ready when given the opportunity to play that matters, because you can't decide whether the coach is going to pick you or not. Never. Doesn't matter how good you are. A coach can leave you out for many different reasons. Okay, so it's not, you're not guaranteed anything, but it's about how ready you are when you get that opportunity to go on the pitch and show people what you can do, and just always be ready to go.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for your insight, Alan. It's been brilliant having you on.
It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, Marvin. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Definitely. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Take care.
This episode is sponsored by the PV Consultant, the go-to business strategist for salon owners and solo beauty professionals who want to grow smarter, not harder. If you're ready to boost your visibility and start attracting more clients today, download the PV Consultant's free Google cheat sheet at www.thepvconsultant.net/cheat sheet. It's packed with simple, powerful tips to get your business seen by the right people. A big thank you to the PV Consultant for supporting today's episode and helping more businesses shine.